Veltar stood at the center of the great hall, his crystal body catching the light from 1,000 different suns. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with beings from across known space. Some floated in gas bubbles, others sat on metal chairs, and a few hung from the ceiling like sleeping bats. All of them waited to hear his report about new worlds found in the galaxy. Veltar had been doing this job for 20 years. He was the best at finding new planets and deciding if they were safe for life. His job was simple but important. Look at worlds and put them into groups. Safe worlds got low numbers, dangerous worlds got high numbers. The highest number was 15, and Veltar had only given that number to 3 worlds in his entire career. Today, he had to talk about a 4th world that deserved the number 15. The crystal being touched a control pad with one thin finger. A huge picture appeared in the air above the council members. It showed a blue and green planet spinning slowly in space. 2 bright suns burned nearby, sending waves of deadly light toward the world. Council members, Veltar said, his voice ringing like broken glass. I present to you planet Kepler 442b. After 6 months of study, I must give this world the highest danger rating we have. Class 15. A sound like 1,000 whispers filled the hall. Some council members moved back in their seats. Others made clicking sounds with their mouths. The floating gas creatures began to glow with worry. Veltar continued his report. This world has gravity that is 30% stronger than normal. The air pressure would crush most of our people in seconds, but that is not the worst part. He touched another button. The image changed to show the planet's surface. Mountains exploded with fire and melted rock. Storms bigger than entire moons spun across the oceans. Strange creatures with too many teeth fought in steaming jungles. The 2 suns send out radiation. Bursts every few days, Veltar explained. These bursts would kill most known life forms instantly. The planet also gets hit by space rocks the size of cities about once every 5 years. When this happens, everything on huge parts of the world dies. Council leader Zephron, a tall being covered in blue scales, leaned forward. What about the native life? Surely nothing can live in such conditions. Veltar's crystal body dimmed with sadness. The life forms on this world have evolved to be killing machines. Every plant, every animal, every tiny creature exists only to destroy other life. They have poison that can eat through metal. They have teeth that can cut diamonds. Some of them can survive in the vacuum of space. The picture changed again. Now it showed close-up images of the planet's creatures. A plant that looked like a beautiful flower suddenly opened to show rows of spinning blades inside. A creature that seemed like a harmless rock suddenly sprouted dozens of tentacles covered in spikes. Even the smallest bugs looked like tiny monsters from nightmares. Furthermore, Veltar continued, the planet's magnetic field changes direction every few hundred years. When this happens, all electronic equipment stops working. Any ship that lands there during one of these events would be trapped forever. AEI, council member from the Peaceful Union, raised a tentacle. Have any of our people ever tried to land on this world? Yes, Veltar replied. We sent an unmanned probe 3 cycles ago. It lasted 14 minutes before something ate it. We detected 17 different types of acid in the creature that destroyed our probe. The recording it sent back before dying showed that the attack came from what we first thought was just a puddle of water. The council chamber fell quiet. Even the creatures that usually made noise while thinking stayed silent. Everyone knew what a Class 15 rating meant. It meant the world was so dangerous that no intelligent life should ever go near it. It meant the planet should be marked with warning signals and left alone forever. Zephron spoke for everyone. The Council hereby declares planet Kepler 442b to be a quarantine zone. No ships are allowed within 10 light years of this system. We will place warning beacons around the area to make sure no one goes there by accident. The other council members nodded or made agreeing sounds. They all felt better knowing that the dangerous world would be kept away from civilized space. Veltar put away his reports and prepared to talk about safer planets. But 3 years later, something impossible happened. Veltar was in his office, looking at reports from survey ships when his assistant came running in. The small furry creature was making excited chittering sounds and waving a data pad in the air. What is it? Veltar asked. The monitoring station near the Kepler system just sent this, his assistant squeaked. You need to see it right away. Veltar took the data pad and looked at the information. At first he thought there was a mistake in the data, then he checked it again. Then he checked it a third time. According to the long-range sensors, planet Kepler 442b was sending out radio signals. Not just any radio signals, but organized patterns that could only come from intelligent life. Even more impossible, the sensors showed artificial structures on the planet's surface. Buildings, cities, technology. Veltar felt his crystal body grow cold with fear. What kind of nightmare creatures could not only survive on a Class 15 world, but build a civilization there? What monsters had evolved in conditions so terrible that they made the rest of the galaxy's worst enemies look like harmless pets? He immediately called Zephyron. Within an hour, the council leader was in Veltar's office looking at the same impossible data. Are you certain these readings are correct? Zephyron asked. I have checked them 50 times, Veltar replied. I also sent a message to 3 other monitoring stations. They all confirm the same thing. There is intelligent life on Kepler 442b, and they have technology advanced enough to send signals into space. Zephyron was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. We need to know what we are dealing with. I am authorizing a reconnaissance mission. 1 ship, maximum stealth, no contact with whatever is down there. We just need to see what kind of beings could survive in hell itself. 3 days later, the stealth ship Whisper of Void left for the Kepler system. Its mission was simple. Get close enough to see what was living on the Deathworld, then come back with information. The crew was told to avoid being detected at all costs. No one knew what creatures that could thrive in such conditions might. To the visitors, the ship and its crew had no idea they were about to make contact with beings who called themselves humans. Captain Taman was drinking his morning coffee when the alert came through. He was sitting in his chair on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the twin suns of New Busan rise over the planet's horizon. The radiation storms they created made beautiful purple and gold patterns in the sky. Captain, called Lieutenant Haijin from her station. I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors. Taman set down his coffee cup and walked over to look at her screen. Haijin was the best sensor operator in the colonial fleet. If she said something was strange, it usually meant trouble. What do you see? He asked. There's a ship hiding in the asteroid belt, Haijin said, pointing at a small dot on her screen. It's trying to stay hidden, but its engines are giving off heat. The strange part is the design. I've never seen anything like it. Taman studied the readings. The ship was definitely not human-made. Its shape was all wrong, and the energy patterns were completely different from anything in their databases. After 300 years of space travel, humans had seen a lot of different ship designs from Earth's various colonies. This was something new. Could it be a lost colony ship? Asked Ensign Dong Ho from the navigation station. No. Taman replied. The power signature is too advanced and the materials are reading as unknown elements. I think we might be looking at our first contact with alien intelligence. An excited murmur went through the bridge crew. Everyone had heard stories about the possibility of meeting aliens, but no human had ever actually seen one. The galaxy was so big that most people thought Earth was alone. Should I send a message to Colonial Command? Haijin asked. Taman thought for a moment. New Busan was 3 weeks away from Earth by the fastest ship. By the time they got orders back, the alien ship might be long gone. The Colonial Authority had trained all ship captains for this exact situation. No, he decided. We follow first. Contact protocol. Haijin, can you tell if they've detected us? I don't think so, she replied. They're focused on scanning the planet. It looks like they're studying our cities and communication networks. Interesting. They're curious about us too. Taman walked back to his captain's chair. Helm, set, course for the asteroid belt, nice and slow. I don't want to scare them. Aye, Captain, replied the helmsman. As the Soul's Pride moved toward the hidden alien ship, Taman opened a communication channel to the planet below. New Busan Control. This is Captain Taman. I need to speak with Dr. Sujin immediately. Doctor, Sujin was the colony's head scientist and expert on strange life forms. If anyone could help figure out how to talk to aliens, it would be her. The communication screen flickered to life, showing a woman in her 40s with short black hair and kind eyes. "Hello, Captain," Dr. Sujin said. "What can I do for you?" "Doctor, we have a situation up here. There's an alien ship studying our colony. I need your advice on how to make contact." Dr. Sujin's eyes went wide with excitement. "Aliens? Really? How wonderful. Have you tried basic mathematical sequences? Most intelligent species should understand prime numbers or simple addition." "That's what I was thinking," Taman agreed. "Can you prepare a basic information package about humanity? Nothing too detailed, just enough to show we're peaceful and intelligent." "Absolutely. This is so exciting. I've been waiting my whole life for something like this." Meanwhile, on the alien ship, whisper of void, panic was spreading through the crew. Reconnaissance Officer Kethlox was staring at his instruments in disbelief. "Commander," he called out, "the creatures on the planet have detected us. One of their ships is approaching our position." Commander Vextar, a tall being with 4 arms and skin like black leather, rushed over to look at the readings. "How is that possible? We're using full stealth technology." "I don't know," Kethlox replied, "but their ship is definitely heading straight for us. And Commander, they're broadcasting something." The bridge crew listened as strange sounds came through their communication system. Numbers, patterns, and what sounded like attempts at communication in multiple different languages. "They're trying to talk to us," whispered Navigation Officer Yildesta. Commander Vextar felt his blood turn cold. These creatures that lived on a Deathworld had not only detected their advanced stealth systems, but were approaching without fear. What kind of monsters had such confidence? "Sir," called Tactical Officer Renthek. "Their ship shows no weapons. Signatures, they appear to be unarmed." "That's impossible," Vextar said. "No species approaches unknown ships without weapons unless they're so powerful they don't need them." Back on the Soul's Pride, Taman was getting ready to make first contact. Dr. Sujin had put together a simple package of information. Basic math, pictures of humans, images of Earth and the colonies, and simple messages of peaceful intent. "Captain," Yejin said, "I'm detecting movement from their ship. They're coming out to meet us." Through the main screen, they could see the alien ship becoming visible as it dropped its stealth systems. It was beautiful in a strange way, with curves and angles that human engineers would never think to use. The hull seemed to shimmer like oil on water. "Open a channel," Taman ordered. "All frequencies." "Channel open, sir." Taman took a deep breath. He was about to become the first human to speak to an alien intelligence. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Taman of the Terran Colonial Authority ship Soul's Pride. We come in peace and wish to establish communication. We are transmitting basic information about our species and peaceful intentions." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the alien ship responded with its own transmission. The message came through as a series of images and sounds that the ship's computer tried to translate. Dr. Sujin, watching from the planet, was practically bouncing with excitement. "They're showing us mathematical concepts. And look, those must be pictures of their homeworld. Captain, this is incredible." The next few hours were spent in careful exchanges of information. The humans learned that the aliens called themselves the Zexkari and were part of something called the Galactic Council. The aliens learned that the humans called their world New Busan and came from a planet called Earth. But as the information exchange continued, both sides began to realize something disturbing. "Captain," Dr. Sujin said during a private communication, "according to their data, they classify our world as something called a Class 15 Deathworld. They seem to think it's the most dangerous type of planet possible." On the alien ship, Kethlox was having a similar conversation with his commander. "Sir, according to their transmissions, they don't just live on this Deathworld. They chose to come here. They have multiple colonies on planets that our computers classify as uninhabitable." Commander Vexitar felt sick. "Are you telling me that these creatures voluntarily live on worlds that would kill us in seconds?" "Yes, sir. And according to this data, the planet they call Earth is even more dangerous than this one. They describe it as their homeworld and seem to have positive feelings about it. The realization hit both crews at the same time. The humans had been living on what the galaxy considered the most dangerous type of world possible, and they didn't just survive there, they thrived. They built cities, raised families, and created art in conditions that would be considered torture by every other known species. Captain Taemin looked at the beautiful alien ship on his screen and felt a strange mixture of pride and worry. Was beginning to understand that humanity might be very different from other intelligent life in the galaxy. "Dr. Sujin," he said quietly, "I think we're going to need to be very careful about how we explain human civilization to our new friends." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 1,000-year history. Representatives from 847 different species filled the Great Chamber, but instead of the usual noise of discussion and debate, there was only nervous silence. Ambassador Dalesh of the Peaceful Consortium floated in her containment sphere, reading the same report for the 5th time. Her tentacles moved in patterns that showed deep worry. Next to her, Counselor Prime Yixtal sat perfectly still, his multiple eyes focused on the data streaming across his personal screen. At the center of the chamber, a huge display showed everything. They had learned about the creatures called humans. Pictures of their cities, recordings of their voices, and, most disturbing of all, detailed scans of the worlds they lived on. Commander Vextar stood at the speaker's platform, still shaken from his encounter with the human ship. "Honored council members," he began, "what I am about to tell you will change everything we thought we knew about life in the galaxy." The chamber remained silent. Everyone was waiting to hear about the beings that lived on Class 15 Deathworlds. "The creatures call themselves humans," Vextar continued. "They are bipedal, about 2 meters tall, and have only 4 limbs. They breathe oxygen and water makes up most of their bodies. In most ways, they seem like a normal carbon-based life form." "Counselor," Yixtal raised one of his arms. "Commander, you say they seem normal. What makes them different?" Vextar touched a control and the display changed to show images from New Busan. "They do not just survive on Deathworlds, Counselor. They prefer them. According to the information they shared with us, they have colonies on 17 different worlds. Every single one of them rates as Class 12 or higher on our danger scale." A sound like wind through broken glass filled the chamber as hundreds of species made noises of disbelief. "Furthermore," Vextar said, "they describe their homeworld Earth as peaceful and safe compared to some of their other colonies. Our computer analysis of their transmitted data suggests Earth would rate as a Class 14 Deathworld." Ambassador Dalesh spoke up, her voice coming through her sphere's communication system. "Commander, are you certain they understood our classification system correctly? Perhaps there was a translation error." "I wish that were true, Ambassador," Vextar replied. "But we spent 6 hours verifying the translations. There is no mistake. These humans actively seek out dangerous worlds to live on. They seem to find them pleasant." The display changed again, showing recordings from the human ship. Captain Taemin appeared on screen, speaking in calm, friendly tones about his world. Behind him, through the ship's windows, deadly radiation storms painted the sky in colors that would blind most species. "Notice how relaxed the human captain appears," Vextar pointed out. "He is surrounded by radiation that would kill most of us in minutes, and he acts as if he is sitting in a garden." Military analyst Kordeth, a creature that looked like a walking tree made of metal, stepped forward. "Council members, I have completed the threat assessment you requested. The results are concerning." A new set of data appeared on the main display. Charts, graphs, and tactical analyses filled the screen. "If these humans can thrive in Class 15 environments," Kordeth explained, "then their biology must be adapted for extreme conditions. This means they could potentially survive in environments that would be instantly lethal to our forces." "What are you saying?" asked Counselor Prime Yixtal. "I am saying that if humans wanted to attack any of our worlds, they could choose battlefields where we could not fight back. They could wage war in radiation storms on planets with crushing gravity or in the vacuum of space. We would be helpless." The chamber erupted in worried sounds. Some representatives began speaking quickly to their assistants. Others started making emergency calls to their homeworlds, but while the council panicked, life on New Busan continued, as normal. Mining engineer Dongwu was having a perfectly ordinary day at work. He guided his mining robot through the lava tubes beneath Mount Fury, one of the planet's most active volcanoes. "Control, this is Dongwu," he said into his radio. "I'm at the 3,000-meter level. The rare metal concentrations look good down here." "Copy that, Dongwu," came the reply from the surface. "How are the conditions?" Dongwu checked his instruments. "Temperature is holding steady at 400 degrees. Radiation is a little high, but nothing the suits can't handle. I should have the samples collected within the hour." What Dongwu considered a little high radiation would have cooked most galactic species in seconds. The temperature he called steady was hot enough to melt many metals. To him, it was just another day at the office. On the other side of the colony, atmospheric engineer Boram was adjusting the weather control systems. She stood on top of a tower that reached high into the planet's dangerous atmosphere, watching the daily meteor shower begin. "Looks like it's going to be a heavy shower today," she said to her assistant. "Better increase the deflector strength by 20%. She typed commands into her tablet, adjusting force fields that would redirect the falling space rocks. Most of the meteors were small, only the size of cars or small buildings. The really big ones, the size of city blocks, only fell once or twice a week. To Boram, this was a routine maintenance task. To the Galactic Council, a single one of those small meteors would be classified as a city-killing disaster. Back in the council chamber, Dr. Su-jin appeared on the communication screen. She had been invited to speak with the council directly, and her friendly smile seemed to make the alien representatives even more nervous. "Hello, everyone," Dr. Su-jin said cheerfully. "It's so wonderful to meet so many different species. I'm a xenobiologist, which means I study alien life forms. Though I suppose that makes you all xenobiologists studying me now." She laughed at her own joke. The council members did not laugh back. Counselor Prime Yixtal spoke carefully. "Dr. Su-jin, we are trying to understand human civilization. You live on worlds that we consider extremely dangerous. Do you not find them frightening?" Dr. Su-jin looked confused. "Frightening? Oh, you mean the radiation storms and meteor showers and things like that? Well, I suppose they can be dangerous if you're not careful. But that's true of anything, isn't it? The same solar radiation that can hurt you also creates the most beautiful aurora displays. And the volcanic activity that makes the ground shake also brings up all sorts of interesting minerals and creates new land." She paused, seeming to think about the question more seriously. "I guess we humans learned a long time ago that the most beautiful and interesting things often come from places that seem scary at first. Our ancestors used to say that diamonds are made under pressure, and flowers grow best in rich soil that comes from things that have died and been reborn." "Ambassador," Delesh found her voice, "but surely you have lost many people to these dangerous conditions." "Oh, sure," Dr. Su-jin replied casually. "Space is dangerous and so is living on new worlds, but that's why we work so hard to take care of each other. When everyone is facing the same challenges, people become very good at cooperation and helping. Others survive." The council members looked at each other with growing alarm. These humans talked about deadly conditions the way other species talked about minor inconveniences. They treated cooperation in the face of extinction-level threats as normal social behavior. "Dr. Su-jin?" Counselor Prime Yixtal asked slowly. "What do humans do for entertainment?" "Oh, lots of things," Dr. Su-jin replied happily. "I personally love free climbing during aurora season. There's something magical about climbing the crystal formations when the radiation storms are creating those beautiful light patterns in the sky. My friend Su Young is really into deep cave exploring. She goes down into the lava tube systems to study the unique life forms that live near the planet's core." Every single council member felt their blood turn cold. These humans did things for fun that would be considered war crimes if done to prisoners. "Counselor," Prime Yixtal ended the communication and turned to face the assembly. "Fellow beings," he said quietly, "we are not dealing with conquerors or warriors. We are dealing with something far more terrifying. We are dealing with a species that finds joy in conditions that would kill us all. 3 days after the emergency council session, Mediator Prime Telvan sat in his private quarters, preparing for the most dangerous mission of his career. He was the council's best diplomat, skilled in the languages and customs of over 200 species. But nothing had prepared him for trying to negotiate with beings who lived on Deathworlds. Telvan's species, the Harmony Collective, were known for their calm nature and peaceful ways. Their homeworld was a gentle place with soft breezes, comfortable temperatures, and no dangerous weather. The idea of meeting creatures from a Class 15 world terrified him, but someone had to do it. His assistant, a small furry creature named Piplo, brought him the final mission briefings. "Sir," Piplo squeaked nervously, "are you certain about this?" The humans suggested meeting on a space station in orbit around their world. Even that location receives more radiation than most military ships are designed to handle. Telvan looked at the radiation readings and tried not to show his fear. The humans had picked what they called a safe, neutral location. To the Galactic Council, it was still more dangerous than most war zones. "I have to try," Telvan said. "If we cannot establish peaceful relations with these humans, we need to know if they represent a threat to the galaxy." The space station the humans had built was called Unity Point. It orbited New Busan at a distance that kept it out of the worst radiation storms but still close enough to receive regular supply ships. To human engineers, it was a masterpiece of practical design. To alien observers, it looked like a structure built to survive the end of the world. Ambassador Jiwoo arrived at Unity Point 3 hours before the scheduled meeting. She was a calm, patient woman in her 50s who had spent her career helping different human colonies work together. She had volunteered for this assignment because she believed that peaceful communication was always possible between intelligent beings. With her came Colonel Minho, a military veteran whose job was to make sure the meeting stayed safe. He was a tall, serious man who had fought in the wars that helped establish some of humanity's more dangerous colonies. Dr. Yeon-soo, a medical expert in alien biology, completed the human delegation. "Colonel," Ambassador Jiwoo said as they prepared the meeting room, "remember that these beings are probably terrified of us. We need to be as gentle and non-threatening as possible." Colonel Minho checked the station's defensive systems one more time. "I understand, Ambassador, but we also need to be ready in case they are not as peaceful as they claim to be." Dr. Yeon-soo was setting up her medical equipment, just in case anyone needed help during the meeting. "I've studied what little we know about their biology," she said. "They seem to be very fragile compared to humans. We need to be careful not to accidentally hurt them." When the alien ship arrived, the humans were shocked by how carefully it approached. The ship moved slowly and kept its distance as if it were approaching something extremely dangerous. It took over an hour for the aliens to dock with the station. Mediator Prime Telvan was the first to come aboard, followed by 2 assistants and a medical officer. The humans were surprised by how different the aliens looked. Telvan was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His assistants were smaller creatures that looked like a mix between cats and birds. The medical officer resembled a walking tree made of silver metal. "Welcome to Unity Point," Ambassador Jiwoo said, bowing slightly in what she hoped was a respectful greeting. "We are honored to meet you." Telvan returned the bow, though his hands were shaking slightly. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Ambassador Jiwoo. I am Mediator Prime Telvan of the Galactic Council." The first part of the meeting went well. Both sides exchanged gifts and basic information about their cultures. The humans gave the aliens samples of Earth music, art, and literature. The aliens shared stories about the different species in the Galactic Council and showed pictures of their various homeworlds. But the real problem started when Dr. Yeon-soo noticed that Telvan seemed to be in pain. The alien diplomat was trying to hide it, but she could see that he was favoring his left side and moving carefully. "Mediator Telvan," Dr. Yeon-soo said gently, "I am a doctor. I notice you seem to be uncomfortable. Did you hurt yourself during the journey here?" Telvan looked surprised. "It is nothing serious, doctor. I bumped into a door frame during our approach. The gravity changes were more difficult than expected." Dr. Yeon-soo frowned with concern. "May I take a look? I have experience with many different types of biology, and I might be able to help. Telvan's assistants immediately moved between their leader and the human doctor. They began making rapid clicking sounds in their own language. Telvan held up one hand to calm them. "Thank you for the offer, Dr. Yonsu," Telvan said carefully. "But I do not think that would be wise. Our biologies are very different." "Oh, that's not a problem," Dr. Yonsu replied cheerfully. "I have portable medical equipment that can work with most carbon-based life forms. I can do a quick scan to make sure nothing is seriously injured, and if needed, I have surgical tools that can work in zero-gravity environments." The alien delegation went completely silent. Telvan's assistants began making distressed noises. The medical officer stepped backward until it hit the wall. Ambassador Jiwoo noticed the reaction and quickly stepped in. "Dr. Yeonsu, perhaps we should focus on our diplomatic discussions for now." But the damage was done. Telvan now understood that human doctors were so used to dangerous conditions that they casually offered to perform surgery in a space station orbiting a Deathworld. The medical tools Dr. Yeonsu mentioned were designed to work in battlefield conditions that would kill most council species instantly. "Forgive me," Telvan said slowly, "but did you say you can perform surgery in zero gravity?" "Of course, Doctor," Yeonsu replied, not understanding why this was surprising. "Most of our deep space medical facilities are designed for zero-G operations. When you're working on mining stations near black holes or research outposts in asteroid fields, you need to be able to treat injuries anywhere." Telvan felt dizzy. These humans worked near black holes as if it were a normal job. They built medical facilities in places where gravitational forces would tear apart most ships. Ambassador Jiwoo was beginning to understand the problem. She had spent enough time studying the alien culture data to realize that what humans considered normal was absolutely terrifying to other species. "Mediator Telvan," she said gently, "I think there may be some misunderstandings about human civilization. We are not trying to frighten you or show off our capabilities. To us, these things are just normal parts of life." "That is exactly what frightens us," Telvan replied honestly. "Ambassador Jiwoo, your people treat extinction-level dangers as minor inconveniences. You build homes in places where our strongest military ships would be destroyed. You raise children in conditions that would be used as torture methods by our worst enemies." Ambassador Jiwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled sadly. "I think I understand now. You see us as monsters because we live in places you cannot survive." "Not monsters," Telvan said quickly. "But we do not understand how to relate to beings who are so different from everything else in the galaxy." Colonel Minho, who had been quiet during most of the meeting, finally spoke up. "Mediator Telvan, may I ask you something?" "Of course, Colonel. Do you have children?" Telvan seemed surprised by the question. "Yes, I have 3 offspring." Colonel Minho's serious expression softened. "I have 2 daughters. They live on Mars with their mother. Mars is one of our safer colonies, lower gravity, controlled atmosphere, protected domes. To me, it's the safest place in the universe because that's where my children are." He paused, looking out the station window at New Busan spinning below them. "I know this world looks dangerous to you, but there are human children down there playing in the gardens, learning to read, having birthday parties, and dreaming about what they want to be when they grow up. To their parents, this is the safest place in the universe because it's home." Telvan followed Colonel Minho's gaze to the planet below. For the first time, he tried to see it not as a death world, but as a place where families lived and children grew up. "We do not see ourselves as warriors or survivors," Ambassador Jiwoo added softly. "We see ourselves as gardeners, trying to make beautiful things grow in harsh places. Yes, space is dangerous. Yes, the planets we live on have challenges. But we have learned that working together, taking care of each other, and refusing to give up can turn even the harshest environment into a home." For the first time since the meeting began, Telvan felt his fear being replaced by something else: curiosity, and perhaps even a small amount of admiration. 6 months after the first meeting at Unity Point, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Galactic Council formally recognized the Terran Colonial Authority as a sovereign government. But the relationship was unlike anything in the Council's history. Ambassador Jiwoo now kept an office in the Council's main headquarters, a massive space station called Harmony Central. The station was built in the safest possible location, far from any stars or dangerous phenomena. To most Council species, it felt perfectly comfortable. To Jiwoo, it felt strangely empty and quiet, like a library where no one was allowed to speak above a whisper. But she had adapted just as humans always did. Her office was filled with plants from New Busan that somehow thrived in the station's controlled environment. The bright flowers and strong green leaves reminded visiting aliens that beautiful things could come from the harshest places. Today, Jiwoo was meeting with Counselor Prime Yixtal to discuss the latest crisis facing the galaxy, the Crystal Cities. Of Veltar's people were dying from something called silicon plague, a rare but deadly condition that turned their beautiful crystalline structures into gray dust. Ambassador, Yixtal said as he entered her office, we have tried everything our best scientists can think of. The plague is spreading faster than we can contain it. Entire cities are becoming uninhabitable. We are running out of options. Jiwoo studied the data files he had brought. The silicon plague was indeed a terrible problem. It attacked the molecular structure of crystalline materials, causing them to break down at the atomic level. Most Council scientists had given up, saying the problem was impossible to solve. Have you considered asking our environmental engineer Narai to look at this? Jiwoo suggested. Yixtal looked puzzled. An environmental engineer? But this is a molecular-level problem affecting crystal structures. Narai specializes in impossible problems, Jiwoo replied with a smile. She designed the atmospheric processors that turned toxic gas clouds into breathable air on 3 different worlds. She also created the radiation shields that protect our cities from solar flares. If anyone can figure out how to stop something that breaks down at the molecular level, it's her. 3 days later, Narai arrived at the crystal city of Shining Harmony aboard a human research vessel. She was a young woman with short hair and eager eyes, carrying equipment that looked far too advanced for someone so young to operate. The crystal beings who met her were amazed by her reaction to their dying city, where they saw only loss and destruction. Narai saw an interesting puzzle to solve. This is fascinating, Narai said as she examined the gray, crumbling buildings. The plague isn't just breaking down the crystal structure, it's actually converting the silicon into a completely different compound. It's like a controlled chemical reaction. Veltar, who had volunteered to guide the human engineer, felt hope for the first time in months. You think you can stop it? Stop it? Narai replied, setting up a piece of equipment that could work in conditions hot enough to melt most metals. I think I can reverse it. If this is a chemical reaction, then there should be a way to run the reaction backward and turn the gray dust back into healthy crystal. The solution Narai developed was typically human in its approach. Instead of trying to fight the plague directly, she created machines that could work in temperatures and pressures that would destroy most Council technology. These machines sprayed a specially designed chemical mixture that reversed the plague's effects while simultaneously strengthening the crystal structures to prevent future outbreaks. To the crystal beings, watching their cities come back to life was like witnessing a miracle. To Narai, it was just another day at work. The success of the Crystal City project led to the creation of the Human Consultation Corps, a group of human experts who specialized in solving problems that other species considered impossible. Chief Consultant Jae Sung, a former disaster relief coordinator from Earth, led teams that helped civilizations survive supernovas, stellar engineering projects, and cosmic phenomena that had never been seen before. The relationship between humans and the rest of the galaxy grew stronger with each crisis they solved together. When the floating cities of the gas dancers were threatened by atmospheric storms, human weather engineers designed force field systems that could work in gas giant environments. When the machine intelligences of the Chrome Collective faced a virus that attacked their computer systems, human cybersecurity experts created defenses using principles learned from fighting computer viruses on Earth for centuries. But the most profound change was not technological, it was philosophical. For thousands of years, galactic civilization had been built on the idea that survival meant avoiding danger, that progress meant making things safer and more predictable. Humans introduced a revolutionary concept, that growth required challenge, that the most valuable discoveries came from pushing beyond what seemed possible. Dr. Su Jin, now promoted to the position of human ambassador to the Galactic Council, stood in the great chamber where she had first addressed the council via video link. This time she was there in person, looking out at representatives from nearly 1,000 different species. 6 months ago, she began. You called our worlds Deathworlds. We called them home. Today I want to talk about the difference between those two perspectives. The chamber was completely silent. Even the species that normally made noise while thinking stayed quiet. When you look at a radiation storm, you see danger and death. When we look at the same storm, we see the raw power that can be harnessed to create energy for an entire city. When you see a planet with crushing gravity, you see a place where your bodies would be destroyed. When we see the same planet, we see a place where new types of architecture and engineering can be developed. She paused, looking around the vast chamber at the hundreds of different faces watching her. The difference isn't in the places themselves. The difference is in how we choose to see them. You have spent thousands of years building a civilization based on avoiding risk and staying safe. We have spent our history learning that the most amazing things happen when you refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible. Ambassador Dalesh of the Peaceful Consortium raised a tentacle. But Ambassador Su Jin, surely you must admit that some risks are too great to take? Dr. Su Jin smiled. Of course. But who decides what risks are too great? 1,000 years ago, your ancestors probably thought space travel was too risky to attempt. 500 years ago, our ancestors thought traveling to other stars was impossible. Today, we're all here together, proving that both of our species were wrong about what was possible. She gestured toward the viewing screens that showed the galaxy beyond the station. Look out there. Billions of stars, trillions of planets, countless opportunities for discovery and growth. How many of those opportunities are we missing because we're too afraid to try? Counselor Prime Yixtal stood up. Are you suggesting that the entire galaxy should start living on Deathworlds? Not at all, Dr. Su Jin replied. I'm suggesting that maybe we should stop calling them Deathworlds and start calling them Opportunity Worlds. Maybe instead of building walls to keep out danger, we should build bridges to reach new possibilities. The session ended with the Council agreeing to establish joint research programs between human colonies and other galactic civilizations. For the first time in Council history, member species began volunteering to study in dangerous environments, working alongside humans to push the boundaries of what was considered possible. 1 year later, Ambassador Ji Woo stood in her apartment on Unity Point, watching the sunrise over New Busan. The radiation storms that painted the sky in brilliant colors were as beautiful as ever, but now she knew that beings from across the galaxy were learning to see that beauty too. Through her window, she could see construction ships from 12 different species working together to build a new research station. The station would orbit even closer to the planet's surface in a zone that had once been considered too dangerous for any technology to survive. Now it would be home to scientists from across the galaxy, all working together to unlock the secrets of extreme environments. In the park below, her daughter Su Young was playing with children from several different species. They were all wearing protective suits that allowed them to safely experience New Busan's environment. What had once been unimaginable, alien children playing on a Class 15 Deathworld, had become a symbol of the new galaxy that was emerging. Jiwoo's communication device chimed with a message from Chief Consultant Jae Sung. A new crisis had emerged. In the Andromeda sector, a star was behaving in ways that threatened to destroy 3 entire solar systems. The local governments were requesting human assistance, confident that if anyone could find a solution to the impossible problem, it would be the species that had learned to make homes in the places others feared to visit. As Jiwoo prepared to coordinate the response to this new challenge, she reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy had learned what humans had always known, that the most dangerous place to be was often exactly where the most amazing things could happen. The difference between a death world and a home, she realized, was not in the place itself. It was in the courage to see possibility where others